And now back to 80/20 estate planning. Here's your host, estate planning expert, Al Gibbons.
So we're back, third segment, and we were talking about the estate planning team. And I asked the question just before the break, Larry and Brent. As an insurance professional, I recognize a client who has a needs some good legal work done and some outstanding planning done. And this is a business owner. There are some complexities, but, this is a situation that we see every day. How do I recommend other professionals? How do I pick a good lawyer? How do I know a good lawyer?
Well, hopefully you know me, but,
so there you go.
Besides that, I mean, I think, the first thing that you want to do and keep in mind at all times in this whole process is it's the client that you're working for. So, you're going to look for somebody who you think is a good fit, personality-wise, the size of the law firm, whether it's a sole practitioner or a mid-sized firm or a large-sized firm, certainly could, a large firm could scare somebody off who wasn't used to dealing with top-notch firms. And of course, all of the credentials of the person, the trustworthiness of the individual, and what I think is most important, independence. The insurance for any member of the team who's really good is going to be the one that is confident in his or her own abilities, that they can bring in an independent person and sort of let the facts speak for themselves in the process.
I think that's a big point, Larry. In order to get the team, the first thing that you need is the lead advisor, or the one with the original relationship, to be secure enough to bring in other outstanding professionals for the benefit of the client. Is that usual or unusual? I guess it's becoming more and more usual. The insurance industry has made a lot of strides in the last 10, 15, 20 years to bring itself up to becoming the professionals that they now are, and that comes along with it. Great. Brent? Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with everything. I think the key here is knowing your limitations. And sometimes there's professionals out there that think that they can do everything. Estate planning, income tax work, you name it. And maybe they don't have the expertise. And I think that I think Larry hit it on the head when he said, you've got to really bring in trusted advisors, because you're really on the line. I mean, the client is depending upon you to select those individuals with the right experience level, the right credentials, the right firm, the right personality. And I think and all that should match the goals and objectives of the client.
I like that. I do think that's important. I think my integrity is on the line. My credibility is on the line by the quality of the other professionals that I recommend into the situation. I mean, I think that's a big, big issue. Do we have some feeling for what percentage of our cases are done by estate planning teams, and maybe how you would define that? I guess it's not always the same. But how normal is the estate planning team? How often do all the advisors get around the table, the same table at the same time with the client?
Yeah, I think if you're dealing with the accounting firm, for example, who may have a high net worth client, and we recognize that estate planning, liquidity issues, these are issues that are important to the client. We as accountants obviously can't draft legal documents. But we need to bring in at an early stage the attorney that has the capability of drafting. So I think when you're talking about from the accounting side of the business, it's important that we get advisors, lawyers, et cetera, insurance folks in early, because these are the critical people in the stage.
Larry, does it happen often?
I think it all is dependent on the net worth of the individual. The higher the net worth, the higher the percentage. I think, as I said earlier, on many matters, it may just be a smaller group that's involved. It may be the attorney and the insurance professional, maybe the accountant. Maybe there's a financial planner involved separately, or an investment advisor. And as you get more complicated situations, the percentage goes up accordingly.
Okay. I would like to find out if you can give me a good story about the team working or not working, either choice. Who wants to start?
Well, I'll start. I'll give you the horror story, and
okay.
The lesson is, as I said earlier, a good team is a team that can be on the same page and sort of present a unified set of recommendations or alternatives recommendations to the client. I had a situation recently.
Larry, let me just stop. Is that necessary that everybody agree on the recommendation?
Oh no, not that they agree. I mean, you can agree to disagree.
Okay.
But where different members of the team are independently going to the client with competing thoughts and recommendations, it does not help the process. And my example is an example of that, where I met with a client, sat down with the client, went through all of the information gathering from my standpoint, determined what their goals were. It was a very relatively simple plan. They had not had a sophisticated estate plan before. You'd mentioned earlier about, the demystifying of the process, and it was that type of a plan. When it came time for the client to come back in and review the documents with me, he said, "Do you mind if I bring my insurance guy with me?" And I said, "Of course, bring him with you." Well, it turns out that the insurance professional brought along with him an internal staff attorney who had not had any conversation previously with me, who totally ripped apart my documents and my plan that I had prepared for the client. And it was a situation where they were looking for the insurance sale and throwing ideas on the wall to see which ones would stick.
Different agendas.
A totally different agenda. And as it turned out, those ideas were not bad ideas, but they were bad ideas for this client.
Right.
It's not what the client wanted. It's not what the client expected, and it created, a very almost hostile situation where someone's coming in and stabbing you in the back, unbeknownst to you.
Right.
And that the team situations that work best are where, in that type of situation, if there is a disagreement, that the team members get together, talk outside of the meeting with the client, and try to work their recommendations out.
Larry, can you not? I mean, it would seem to me that people who are trying to serve the client's best interests could also have that conversation in front of the client. Now, you don't want surprises, but you could have the conversation in front of the client and have the client hear the discussion. But here we're talking about respecting each other's perspective. I see more of a lack of respect here. Let's talk a little bit more about this after the break.
80/20 Estate Planning will return after these short messages. Mortality. Who dwells on it? But when it comes to planning your estate, it's never too early to start. For smart ways to get the most from your estate and planning team, you need to hear Al Gibbons, creator of the heralded 80/20 Estate Plan. Implement 80% of the planning you need in 20% of the time it normally takes, from A to Z in 60 days. Contact AEG Financial Services today at 610-917 8940 or email them at algibbons@algibbons.com for more information about Al's expert services and related products. Al Gibbons of AEG Financial Services is a highly respected expert in the complicated and often confusing world of estate planning. Put his years of experience in dealing with real situations to work for you. Contact AEG Financial Services today. Call 610-917-8940. That's 610-917-8940 or email algibbons@algibbons.com.
Did you know that some ethnic groups have an AIDS infection rate 8 to 14 times that of white Americans? Did you know that there are powerful foreign interest groups behind the push for more and more restrictive gun control laws, and that their goal is to disarm American citizens so that we can never rebel against tyranny? American citizens need to know the truth. That's why you need the National Vanguard Books catalog. For only $1, they will send you their big book catalog for patriots, listing over 400 books, tapes, and videos that the censors of political correctness don't want you to see. Send $1 today to National Vanguard Books, Department R, Post Office Box 90, Phillipsboro, West Virginia, 24946. That's National Vanguard Books, Department R, Post Office Box 90, Phillipsboro, West Virginia, 24946.
Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Harold Walchuk from the Consortium for Automotive Education, and we welcome you to tune in each Saturday morning at 9 o'clock to listen to the Autolab broadcast, a weekly automotive program dedicated to reporting the history and culture of the automotive industry and providing you with expert, credible second opinions on how to fix your car. That's each Saturday morning at 9 o'clock right here on WALE.
Talk to our expert host. In the Providence area, call 621-WALE. Outside the Providence area, call toll-free, 1-877-621-WALE.
And now back to 80/20 Estate Planning. Here's your host, estate planning expert, Al Gibbons.
Process that didn't work, and I would like to talk for a moment about one that does work, and then I want to sort of see if we can draw some principles and see how we can make these things work better. Can you give us an example?
Yeah, actually, I've got a very timely example. We just finished a transaction, estate planning engagement, where we came in with the initial recommendation, we being the accounting firm, and we presented it to the client's advisors, and it was a long process, back and forth discussions about different technicalities. Finally, we got to a resolution very quickly. And there's a story that I want to tell here is that the transaction actually got implemented very quickly. And
I love hearing that.
And I think it was due in part to the fact that everybody was on board with the plan. And we set timetables, deadlines. We had client conference calls every week to let the client know where we were going. We had every advisor that was involved in the transaction on the line, and if issues
with the client,
with the client, and or the CFO of the client, and including the CFO of the client, and we resolved issues. And to the extent that we didn't have issues resolved, we set another conference call a week later to see where we stood on the particular issues. And sure enough, we met our time deadline, and the client, we have a happy client.
Yeah, that is a great story. Brent, who managed that process? Who quarterbacked that process? Did the client and the CFO, or did one of the advisors? How did that unfold?
Yeah, I think we brought the plan or the solution to the client, and the client got us involved, introduced us to the law firm they were working with, and the client, I think, basically said to the attorney that let's work with KPMG's plan, and let's work out the kinks and make it happen. So the client really acknowledged the fact that we were involved in the transaction, and that they wanted all parties to be involved, and then we as professional advisors managed the process on a professional level.
Yeah, that is a great story with leadership by the client, and I think many of our clients are in a position to take a leadership role as soon as they understand the issues. The case that you were describing, Larry, I wonder what the client's thinking. I mean, that is very strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, the client was very upset, obviously. The issues that were raised were technical, complicated issues that were well beyond this particular client and what this particular client was looking for. So, you had a client who sort of his eyes were rolling, in the back of his head. You had me as the attorney, with a combination of a red face on one side and an egg on my face on the other side, because even though I was able to later make amends with the client and remind them what their original goal was, I mean, it made me look bad, and that's not good either, obviously, as part of the process.
Right.
I think that the important thing is that there should be differences of opinion among the professionals where appropriate. After all, that's why the client wants to have members of different disciplines on the team. But the disagreements shouldn't necessarily be fought in front of the client.
Right.
So I think that's important.
There are a couple things that I have been involved with that I have found most beneficial in terms of the process. One is, if you can get mature, responsible, credentialed, credible, competent professionals together, already you're ahead of the game. Now, sometimes it's sort of like picking your relatives, and sometimes you can't pick the other advisors. But if you can get everybody's credentials and credibility out there and build a mutual platform for respect, I think that can be very beneficial in process. And as Brent was saying, in his particular positive story, and we've all had positive and negative stories, in his positive story, the client said, look, we want you guys to work together. You're all capable professionals. So let's see if we can get something done. So I have often had either a conference call or a meeting with advisors, once having had permission to share information, where we could build that platform for mutual respect and avoid control issues or agenda issues that were contrary to the client's best interests later. And that has been successful. Also, in the process, I usually take the lead because nobody else really likes doing it. But I take the lead or encourage other advisors to communicate by email, which is very effective today. And I don't do it just with advisors, but the client is always in on the email. That way, if I've said, look, this is what I heard at the meeting, if it's wrong, the client can make and is expected to make the correction so that everybody's moving along in the same direction.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the reason that our transaction was able to close on time was we were sending emails almost on a daily basis, maybe 2 to 3 emails an hour.
And everybody was in on them?
Yeah, everybody was in on it.
So you could correct any of the misconceptions.
Absolutely.
That way, and that way, I think if somebody has a different agenda, it quickly becomes clear. This obviously is not foolproof, but I think it does help on the team, and I really like working with other professionals on that basis. It's just been really a very exciting experience, and I can hear the excitement in your voice, Brent, when you have a good process.
Yeah, and we were complimented on it by both sides.
Well, I'm sure the client was elated.
Yeah, I mean, his goals and objectives were timely met.
Right. Now, so as we're here, then, talking about some of this stuff, one of the issues that you brought up, Brent, is that one of the major benefits of team planning is speed. It tends to move faster, and I would think that another benefit would be, with speed, that you tend to get better planning because everybody sort of is remembering the facts, everyone's involved, everyone's focused, and you get better implementation.
Everybody's got an important role on the team, and I think if you go into the game without knowing what the role playing is on each team member, I think you're going to get lousy results.
Good point. Let's come back after the break, talk about some of the other benefits. We'll be right back in a minute.
80/20 Estate Planning will return after these short messages. Mortality. Who dwells on it? But when it comes to planning your estate, it's never too early to start. For smart ways to get the most from your estate and planning team, you need to hear Al Gibbons, creator of the heralded 80-20 estate plan. Implement 80% of the planning you need in 20% of the time it normally takes, from A to Z in 60 days. Contact AEG Financial Services today at 610-917-8940 or email them at algibbons@algibbons.com for more information about Al's expert services and related products. Al Gibbons of AEG Financial Services is a highly respected expert in the complicated and often confusing world of estate planning. Put his years of experience in dealing with real situations to work for you. Contact AEG Financial Services today. Call 610-917-8940. That's 610-917-8940 or email algibbons@algibbons.com.
Oh no, this is a brand new car!
Don't worry, let's not call the police. I'll give you my name and number. If you have any problems, call me. My friend owns a body shop.
This is a toll-free call, 1-866-LAW RADIO.
I'm sorry, ma'am. It appears that the surgery did not go exactly as we expected.
This is a toll-free call, 1-866-LAW RADIO. Experienced and professional legal representation is now a phone call away. This is a toll-free call, 1-866-LAW RADIO. Whether you've been wrongfully injured, you're buying a home, or are involved in a legal dispute, you need to know your rights, how the law applies to you, and how to avoid or solve a legal problem. Now you have the information you need. This is a toll-free call, and you will receive a free consultation. This is a toll-free call, 1-866-LAW RADIO. 1-866-LAW RADIO. When you need to speak to a lawyer, call anytime after the show or at your convenience, or just anytime you need to speak to a lawyer. Call toll-free, 1-866-LAW RADIO. And now back to 80-20 estate planning. Here's your host, estate planning expert, Al Gibbons.
From the income tax side. So let's come back, talk about cost. When you have the team together, I guess the ticker's running. Is it more expensive, less expensive to get through the process? Larry, what's your experience?
Well, I think if this makes any sense, it may be a little bit more expensive, but it's a lot more efficient. There's not a lot of time wasted, but the ability to have the entire team working towards the same goal, hopefully being able to agree that goal is the best goal for the client. Right. It's going to make for more efficiency and therefore a better plan.
I would say it should sure make for more peace of mind.
Absolutely.
What that's worth, huh? I mean, I think the value is much higher. Any thoughts on that, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to use the expression "you get what you pay for," and I think it really applies in this situation. The more comprehensive plan, I think, is going to involve individuals that have different expertise around the table, and sometimes an attorney may not have that expertise, and you regret later that you should have brought the other individual in.
Right, and my experience would be, I don't know if the cost in actual dollars is more or less, but the value is so exponentially greater by going through the team process. If I were a client, there is no other way that I would do it. That's how strongly I feel about it. Any thoughts that you want to bring up that we've talked so far? Brent, how about, I think you had some issues regarding keeping it simple. Is that a big issue?
Yeah, I think it is. I think you mystify and make the process complex with your clients. I think the harder it's going to be to ultimately get the implementation. So what I tend to do is I like to start it out very simple estate planning ideas, and then to the extent that goals and objectives are further built out, you can get a little bit more complex. But I think we've got, we tend to, as professionals, like to use a lot of technical jargon. And quite honestly, the clients really don't understand that. So I think if I were a client, I would probably want to come back and say, just put this in plain English.
Right.
Keep it simple.
Larry, your experience?
Absolutely the same. The mark of a good planner is somebody who can take something very complicated and describe it to the client in the way that they'll understand. Clients don't have patience for all the technical jargon. They really don't want to be bothered with it, but they want to have the information to empower them to make decisions. We've gotten down to the point where we now are able to, with software, actually draw out the plan, actually show where the dollars are going to come from and where they're going to flow and what the terms of each of those dispositions in the estate plan is going to be. And clients love that. A picture is 1,000 words. And we find it very helpful to get it down to that level where they can understand why certain recommendations are being made and how to accomplish their goals, and at the same time take advantage of the tax environment and other things that they need to be taking into account.
So you do some pictures. You do some flow charts.
That's exactly right.
Brent, are you doing that?
Yeah, we do that, but in addition to that, if we're implementing some gifting strategies, what we'll do is a cash flow analysis.
Okay.
To show the client that by making these gifts, he's not any worse off today than in the future.
Okay. Would you agree, in general, when clients understand, they act?
Absolutely.
I would second that.
Okay. So that would be the goal of all of us then, communication. I remember once hearing that the bigger the client, the more white space you need on a sheet of paper. And in many cases, it's conceptual. You watch the flow, and then you have sort of the details in footnotes underneath. Right. When you people do plans, do you do a summary on top, like an executive summary?
We do, yes. We have it written out, and we have it on those flow charts.
Great. Brent, you too?
Yeah, we do as well. In fact, at the client meetings, we'll typically have a board set up where we can table discussions that aren't really relevant and put key points down.
Thank you very much for being with me. Thank you, Phoenix Home Life, for being a sponsor. I've enjoyed it very much. Larry, Brent, if the clients or listeners would like to contact me, we'll forward them on to you with questions. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to 80/20 Estate Planning with your host, Al Gibbons. You can tune in to our live broadcast every Tuesday at 4 p.m. If you would like to contact Al Gibbons, you may email him at algibbons@algibbons.com or mail your questions and comments to AEG Financial Services, The Commons at Valley Forge, 1288 Valley Forge Road, number 53, Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, 19460-2681. Please join us again next week.